Namaskar. A warm welcome to World News, an Indian perspective on All India Radio. This is Nishit Kumar, and with me is Renuka, bringing glimpses of major developments of the day from across the globe. The headlines. India enters the global high table as member of the UN Security Council. New Delhi asks Beijing to facilitate the return of stranded Indian sailors in an urgent, practical and time-bound manner. India gears up for largest vaccination drive in history. Nationwide trial run of COVID vaccination begins tomorrow. WHO clears Pfizer COVID vaccine for emergency use. New York Stock Exchange starts the process of delisting 3 major Chinese telecom companies. And Japan PM says Tokyo Olympics will be held this summer. With the beginning of the new year, India joins the United Nations Security Council as a non-permanent member. This would be India's 8th stint as a non-permanent member of the principal UN organ. India will assume the presidency of UNSC in August 2021. India was elected unopposed as nations overwhelmingly welcomed India's presence in the 15-member body. Right from its first term as president of the UNSC in 1950, India has championed the cause of peace and non-aggression around the world. Benegal Narsingh Rao presided over adoption of resolutions 82 and 83 calling for cessation of hostilities during Korean War and for assistance to South Korea.
The first paragraph of the operative part of the draft resolution has been revised so as to read: 1. Calls for the immediate cessation of hostilities and calls upon the authorities in North Korea to withdraw forthwith their armed forces to the 38th parallel. Today's world is facing a multitude of challenges which necessitate a collective global response. Former Indian Ambassador Ashok Sajanar underlines the significance of India's entry into UNSC in this regard.
Prime Minister Modi has said that multilateralism is in crisis because the major multilateral institution, that is the United Nations, is still working by the laws and principles and structures that it had devised in 1945. India has become such a major voice and a positive voice in the world, whether it is in terms of the economy. We are now in purchasing power parity terms, we are the 3rd largest economy, the UN peacekeeping forces, and the success of many of the initiatives, whether it is climate change or otherwise, is as to how successfully India can implement those aspects. And India has been taking a leadership position in all these areas, and India's role and contribution will have a very important role, make an important contribution in framing the future of this multilateral system.
Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India has been a consistent votary for reform multilateralism. India has always played a constructive role in improving whichever multilateral institution it has been a part of. In this, the world shares the optimism voiced by UN Resident Coordinator for India, Renata Desalin.
The multilateralism of the future will definitely be stronger and more effective because of India's contribution. I mean, India's rich history and her culture is infused, with centuries of civilization, and that comes through with her contributions to the UN. Contributes a profound understanding and a deep sense of our common humanity.
As the world looks to emerge from the COVID pandemic and progress together, India's leadership role on the global high table provides much reason for hope and positivity. India today said its embassy in Beijing has repeatedly taken up the cases of MV Jaganand and MV Anastasia, with the Chinese side requesting that the ships be allowed to dock and the crew be allowed to be changed. In response to a media query on status of the 2 ships, External Affairs Ministry spokesman Anurag Srivastava said MV Jaganand is on an anchorage near Jingtang port in Hebei province of China with 23 Indian nationals as crew on board. Another vessel, MV Anastasia, which has 16 Indian nationals as its crew, is on anchorage near Kaohsiung port in China. Mr. Srivastava said the Chinese authorities have conveyed that on account of various COVID-19 related restrictions imposed by the local authorities, crew change is not being permitted from these ports. The spokesman said India has noted the statements of the Chinese side expressing their willingness to extend their assistance in this matter. Our Beijing correspondent has filed this report.
Last month, Chinese Foreign Ministry put the onus on freight forwarder for not allowing the ship Jiaganan to leave Jingtang port without saying anything on crew change. Later, Chinese side said that while crew change is allowed at other ports following certain quarantine conditions, it is not allowed at Jingtang port even with the quarantine. They conveyed to Indian Embassy in China in late November 2020 that while crew change from Jingtang port would not be feasible, the shipping company may apply for crew rotation from Tianjin port and that the local authorities would examine after receiving requests for the same. The concerned shipping companies have been asked to make crew change applications expeditiously. Given the grave humanitarian situation, Indian Ambassador in China, Vikram Misri, has personally taken up this issue with Chinese Vice Foreign Minister. Another ship, MV Anastasia, with Indian crew is exploring the possibility of a crew change at its current point of anchorage in Sao Fidian. Indian Embassy has written to Chinese authorities for approval of the same. Anshuman Mishra for World News, All India Radio, Beijing.
Now we go live to our Beijing correspondent Anshuman Mishra for more in this issue. So Anshuman, what is your sense of this entire situation on the basis of your interaction with the Chinese side?
Chinese Foreign Ministry has said that they are ready to extend the necessary assistance. Shipping companies are also supplying the provisions through their agents. However, the mental and physical agony through which the crew is undergoing is unthinkable. Many are having health issues, which may be a matter of concern. Staying more than a year on the sea away from the families has really become a humanitarian crisis.
Anshuman, it looks like a complex system. Do you think shipping companies could have done a little more?
As it comes out to be, entire matter revolves around the political tussle between China and Australia regarding China's ban on the import of Australian coal. As these ships were carrying Australian coal, they got stuck in this unprecedented situation in which Indian crew members are facing great suffering. Along with Jaganan and Anastasia, there are many ships on the sea who are waiting to unload their cargo, and around thousands of sailors are stuck on these ships. China also allowed few ships to unload their cargo, which has created more confusion regarding the Chinese system as they did not allow other countries' ships to unload their cargo. Many of these ships were on the sea voyage for months who actually did not come in contact with outside world since the time COVID struck the world in January 2020. Then also not allowing them to disembark, not even with the quarantine, was beyond comprehension as told by the ship owners and the sailors.
How is the situation regarding the supply of essentials to the crew members on the ship? Is it smooth?
They are in limbo. As there is no clarity from Chinese side, Indian Embassy in China has been in touch with Chinese Ministry of Education but received no response in recent times. Chinese universities are conducting online courses, but students said that online courses have limited utility, and since most of these 23,000 Indian students studying in China, they are for medical studies. So the practicals are more important. So these online courses have limited utility, and also there has been almost no communication from Chinese side on their return, which is causing anxiety over their future. They have lost almost a year. The Chinese Foreign Ministry did not give any assurance on their return, but said that China will assess the situation and will continue discussing that with all the parties. It is yet to be seen when anything fruitful comes out. Even though students may be called back following quarantine requirements as per the scientific protocols, it is not yet clear why China is not considering this option.
Anshuman, there are reports about thousands of Indian students also who are not yet allowed to return to China to resume their studies. What's Chinese response on that?
Yes, actually it's very complex web involving the shipping company, which is the owner of the vessel, the freight forwarder, and they then sublet it to another subcontractor, and the last one is the actual owner of the cargo. Shipping companies do have the responsibility, and they told that they wanted to move the ship to other countries as it is not allowed to unload the cargo at Chinese port, but the owner of the ship did not allow Jaganan to move with the cargo. There were legal obligations for that. So the shipping company had to follow that. Many cargo owners of other ships, they sold their cargo to other countries so that they could move out of Jingtang port. Shipping company, the owner of the Jaganand, also told that they tried to have a crew change at some other port, but the conditions imposed were unworkable. So it is really difficult to untangle this web as to who is responsible and exactly how much for this unfolding crisis, except the fact that larger issue is China's ban on Australian coal. As per the latest information, the shipping companies have to again submit a proposal for crew change for Jaganand at Tianjin and for Anastasia at South Irian.
This is All India Radio giving you the world news. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we have a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene.